Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Holt, Renfrew and this very special moment. So, as we know, today, March 8th, is International Women's Day. Yes. Today is a global day to recognize and celebrate women's and girls' social, economical, cultural, and political achievements. It's also a time to highlight the progress made in advancing women's rights and in the ongoing efforts needed to ensure their full participation in society. The Government of Canada's theme for International Women's Day this year is Strength in Every Story. This year's theme highlights the importance of amplifying the voices of all women, particularly those who continue to face barriers to success. Creating opportunities for women and girls unlocks their potential and drives innovation, supports Canada's economy, and helps ensure a sustainable future for all. Every women's story is a testament to resilience, determination, and the power of opportunity. And our incredible guests today, Maggie and Jeanne, are no exception to this. So, does everybody have a glass? I'd like us to raise our glasses to every woman and girl here with us today and otherwise as we celebrate them and share their stories. Hear, hear. Cheers. Okay, so at Holt, Renfrew, Calgary, we really view ourselves as a community within a community. And today, we are thrilled to have partnered with Ryan Green and Masters Gallery to showcase the incredible work of Maggie Hall. So without further ado, over to you, Ryan, to introduce our guests of honor.
Thank you, Jared, so much. Is this working? Can everybody hear me okay? Jared and everybody at Holt, Renfrew, thank you so much from everybody at Masters Gallery from the bottom of our hearts for putting this on. It looks so gorgeous. I just can't believe how wonderful it looks. The team here and Jared is just outstanding. Just like the brands that they represent here at Holt Renfrew, everybody here is absolute quality. And I just want to say a special thank you to everybody at Holt Renfrew, and especially on Women's Day, Robin Silverberg, who's very important here with marketing, and also Katrina Olson, who's just been instrumental in helping put this together. So thank you, everybody from Holt Renfrew. It's such an honor. It's so humbling to be a part of this. Maggie Hall is here. And she's going to come out in a few moments with the living legend, Jeanne Beker. So I don't want to hold you up too much to keep you from them. I just want to say a couple things. For those of us who are familiar with Maggie Hall's work, I'm looking out into the crowd, and I think it's virtually everybody, so you don't need me to tell you anything new about Maggie. But she is exceptional. For more than a decade, she's been lighting the Canadian contemporary art scene on fire. I don't need to tell you that. You just need to look at the works, which are literally on fire. The subject matter is incredible. How she draws on different media, how she draws on different historical periods. In this case, it's post-war utopia, and uses mediums to help amplify her voice and tell stories that are both personal but culturally relevant for all of us. She is absolutely astounding. And it's so humbling to be representing her work at Masters Gallery. It's such an honor. And of course, Jeanne Beker, what can I tell you that you don't already know? Elton John himself said that she is a legend, a living legend. And that's really what we need to know about Jeanne Beker. She's a founder of Much Music. In 1985, she launched and co-created, of course, Fashion Television, which ran for almost 30 years, broadcast in more than 130 countries. Absolutely incredible. I remember, as probably a lot of us do in the 90s, how she brought in that world and broke down the barriers of the fashion world, that elite world, and brought it to all of us. And she transformed the way that we view style, and especially today. So without me standing in the way anymore, please help me welcome our two fabulous guests on this special Women's Day, Jeanne Beker and Maggie Hall.
Oh, group hug. You You guys are so beautiful. Oh, we are so thrilled to be here. I'm just, speechless. Hey, that's bad for someone like me, but I did study mime, so if words fail me, I'll just act it out. This is pretty incredible, isn't it? How does it feel to see all these people?
Wow. I'm very excited, a little bit nervous. I'll take some deep breaths.
Oh, well, it's great. Okay, we'll sit down. We'll have a cozy chat. Just so great to see you all here. And interesting because Maggie and I just recently connected and had a wonderfully heartfelt conversation, very personal. And it was like realizing that we're generation apart, but we certainly are on the same page about so many things. And we're going to talk about some of those things, some of those issues and some of the challenges of being a woman today, but also some of the joys and some of the incredibly gratifying experiences that we've had over the years. So first of all, talking about art, because Maggie's art is just off the map. I am so intrigued by the way that you kind of gave us this vision, and then stuff really did start happening, like the obvious thing, the LA fires. I mean, you did your fire works well before that.
Yes.
And then to see, that city go up in flames in that way. I mean, are you some kind of clairvoyant?
No, definitely not. I think it was more of a metaphor about experiencing, specifically in the last year, some grief, but also just the entire experience of what it's like to be a new mother. I have 2 little babies, and to try and balance this career that is sort of self-directed and self-taught, and the sort of expectation that I have it all together and I can do all of these things. And these paintings recently are the expression of what that actually feels like. You feel like you have all of these balls in the air and you're juggling them, and you put one drops and it just sort of lights up.
Yeah. I mean, that is a total common theme with so many of us. We want it all. And I think we deserve to have it all. I mean, I was coming up at a much different time than you, of course, in the 80s, when we all felt incredibly empowered after, really coming out of a period where a lot of people were trying to keep us down. Some people still try to keep us down, but we'll show them. I almost felt maybe a little bit guilty about wanting to have it all, but I also felt that I owed it to myself to have it all. I mean, I waited till I was like, well, in those days, 35 seemed like you were old to have kids at 35. My mother kept saying, you better hurry up because the store's gonna close. I was like, I was like, okay, Ma, I'll have, I had fashion television had just taken off like in 1985, and it was going through the roof, and it was like, but kids, I don't want to forget to have kids. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, popping out these 2 kids rather quickly, never took maternity leave because in those days you couldn't take it the way you could take it now. That's another story. But for you, that whole passion to really want to have it all, is that something you were always comfortable with, Maggie?
No, I actually, I didn't even think I was going to have children. And similar to you, I think I was 36 when my first came into this world. And it wasn't until I met someone who supported both my career and this idea of family. And I think that is really important. This illusion that you can have it all. I think it is an illusion and it's an illusion to do it all at once. I am a good artist. Maybe I am not so great at being a mother or a partner at that same time. And so you have these buckets, and you have the art bucket, and you have the self-care bucket, and you have the family, the mother, and you have the partner. And I can't fill those buckets at the same time. And so I do some art, and then I come home and I'm a mother, and then I lack some self-care, and then I fill that bucket, and you just sort of rotate.
Totally with
balance
you.
Balance is an illusion.
Like you can have it all, but maybe not all at once.
Yes.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And was I there for my kids physically all the time as they were growing up? no, I couldn't be. I was running around the world covering fashion. Was I crazy to do that? It was being true to myself, though. I always knew, first and foremost, I was doing this career that I could just not give up on because it was who I was, and I wouldn't be authentic to myself. And I think my kids really, really appreciated it. Did I cry myself to sleep in hotel rooms all around the world, as every working mother can relate to? Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Terribly
the guilt.
painful.
The guilt is real. But I think because you, again, with the buckets, you work hard at being an artist, and I hope that my kids see that I pursued something that I was really passionate about and gave it my all and just gave it everything, and I came home and I was just present for them when I was there. Like, I want to be a good example. I want to show my daughter and my children and all the other sort of women that are currently looking at me that pursue it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can do it.
Yeah, I say you go for it.
Yes.
You know, and live life large. I mean, Anais Nin, the great French writer, once said, "Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage." And I think, you know, if you're courageous and you're gutsy and, you know, you can lead this fabulously big life. I mean, maybe not everybody wants a big life. I don't know. I was always just determined to have this big, fabulous life. It couldn't be just good or great. It had to be incredible. Maybe that is because, you know, my parents and the way they brought me up. My parents are Holocaust survivors. And I felt like I had to make up for all they never had a chance to accomplish. What about for you? You had an incredibly close relationship, too, with your late, great dad. Who just
Yeah. These paintings are also my mom's in the front row. And my brother. My father passed away almost a year ago, and I did not understand grief until that moment. And that shocked me because we all experience grief multiple times in our life. Thank you. And as soon as my dad died, he was sick for a while in a hospital, and I was there, and that was very powerful, very emotional. I went straight back to the studio because I needed to process all of that, and I needed to process it in art. And a few months later, my son turned 1. And I was caught in this moment of, you know, I'm in the throes of grief, and my son is looking at me, and he needs something. We're doing a birthday cake. This is the piece. This is sort of a self-portrait, and this idea that in the back of my head, I'm processing grief and managing all of these things. These balls are in the air, but my kids, they need a birthday cake. Like, I can be sad, but these things are more important to me right now. And so here I am with the cake on fire. I'm here, I'm showing up, like, let's look good, let's do this. And on the inside is sort of, it can be imploding.
Yeah.
And some of the pieces over there where the houses are exploding, but not in a violent way. Like, the windows aren't blown out, it's not charred, and like, it's not a war zone. The houses are still pretty. It's just a metaphor for it. It's on fire and it's exploding. And in the paintings, the women tend to be, you know, put together and have their outfit on. And like, you know, you just, if you look good, you feel good. Mm-hmm. And that's what this work, all of these work, are really about.
I think it's incredible how, you know, the spirit of our beloved family members, perhaps, or even friends that have passed can really, you know, live on in us and fuel our passions even more and help us on the journey to continue, because I'm sure your dad was with you in the studio every step of the way doing all these pieces.
My dad was one half of the 2 major champions of art in my life. My mother was so wonderful, and every time I took her a piece would say, you know, it's beautiful, I love it, and would fill that bucket, and I'm confident. And I would take the piece to my dad, and my dad never, he never said, oh, I just love it. It was always, I think that Mickey Mouse's ear is a little crooked. He called it constructive criticism, and maybe to some it sounds harsh, but I never understood it as harsh. I understood it as, oh, okay, I'm going to go try and make that thing better. And so with my mom, I got this love and this confidence, and with my dad, I got, okay, but try harder. Here's your critique. Here's get better. And so yes, the work is, the self-direction of my entire career is based in this sort of pattern of, positive reinforcement and also a critique. Try harder, do more things, go bigger. Yeah.
It's interesting how we both managed to find partners, because it's not always an easy thing to do. And I waited, I had a few partners over my checkered life. But my, the last partner I found, who I certainly hope will be my last partner, absolutely adore him. I met him at an art gallery, which is interesting. Great story about that. How my mom had just passed a couple weeks before, and I had to go to the McMichael Gallery, that wonderful Canadian art gallery in Ontario. And I was like their honorary patron for this big moonlight gala fundraiser they were doing. And I really didn't want to go, because here I am, dateless. I hadn't, been with anyone for a couple of years there, and I was like 63 years old, and I thought I got to put on a little black dress again and sit there and kind of, but my best friend Penny, and we've been friends since we were 11, said, no, come on, the McMichael was your mom's favorite place to go on a Sunday afternoon, which it was. We got to go to this guy, let's just hire a limo and we'll go out there and we'll just have a great time, and it'll be great. Let's go. And I go, oh, okay. So I put on the little black dress and then, the little sparkly stilettos, and we took off for the McMichael. And the second we got there, of course, she ran around. She's schmoozing with everyone, and I'm sort of, sobbing into my flute of champagne. And all of a sudden, I see this guy, sort of a cute guy, like a little silver fox kind of guy, walking back and forth, checking me out. And I thought, okay. And then all of a sudden, our eyes locked, and he makes a beeline for me. And he comes right up to me, and he sticks his hand out. He goes, hi, my name's Ian McInnes, and I'm on the foundation board of the McMichael Gallery, and I just want to congratulate you on your career for always having kept yourself so relevant. And I thought, damn, is that the sexiest thing that someone could say to a woman, especially a woman of a certain age? That's all we want to be. I should maybe own that, all I want to be, but we want to be relevant. We want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like we're plugged in. And I thought, okay, this guy is going to get me. He's going to get why I dance as fast as I can, and why I'm, working with a passion, but how I want to keep out there. What about you and your fabulous partner? How did that all happen?
I will probably spare him the embarrassment of how we met, but I started a nonprofit art studio in the city here in Inglewood called Neverland. It was myself and 5 other people. I'm no longer on the board, but the project is still very much up and running. And one of the reasons that I had an affordable art studio space in the city, and Alexis lived a couple doors down, and he used to do his jog with his shirt off around the neighborhood. And that was me outside of the studio being like, who is that? And then, but yeah, back to import. Oh, I'm blushing. But back to supportive partners, which I think was sort of, I cannot even fathom where I would be without Alexis. Back to this thinking you can have it all. You can, but having supportive people around you, partners, family, the 2 grandmas are here right now, they support us immensely. My brother, these things are so important. So for the people who are chasing after things or trying to achieve something or build something, or just trying to make it, turn and lean on the people around you if you can, because it makes such a difference. So, yeah.
Very blessed to have these special people in our lives, whether they're, friends or family or partners. couldn't fathom my life now without my guy and my girls, my daughters, who are grown women now, and certainly off blazing their own trails. Sometimes I always encourage them to be fearless. That was my dad's motto that got my parents through the war. Don't be afraid and never give up. So I always encourage my kids to, be fearless and be tenacious. And then I'm thinking, did you have to be that fearless? One of them lives in the Yukon off grid. The other one's trying to run a 123-acre farm by herself. And she's an artist. They're both artists. It's another thing. I'll be a patron of the arts for the rest of my life, but it's a great thing to see your kids living out their dreams. What would you hope for? Well, since it's International Women's Day and we're talking about gals, for your gorgeous little girl.
I hope that she grows up with the ability with the dedication and the hard work and just the opportunity to pursue whatever it is her little heart desires. She's a very good artist, right? Yeah.
Another, how great that you, and would encourage that. And of course I encourage that, the art thing. I know sometimes I think maybe they should have been accountants instead or something, It's definitely not an easy road to hoe. Difficulties in your career, once you decided that you wanted to be an artist, how tough was it to keep your eye on the prize and keep going?
I never struggled. I never wavered. The hardest part was really committing to it. I think I sort of waffled for 10 years. I painted and drew since childhood. And then I think 28 or 29 is when I said, I'm going to do this. And so I called my parents and I said, can I move into the basement? Because I'm going to be an artist. And they were like, sure, kid. And that was it. That was the moment. And it was 6 years of 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day before I really started to make money. It was hours in, and it was hours and hours, but I never gave up. I was never going to give up. There was no other option. I tried all these other careers. I'm not good at anything else, for sure. So yeah, it was just straight dedication. I knew it, and it was a beeline, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather do.
Do you feel like you're on a tightrope sometimes? The whole balancing act, as we said, it's such a supreme juggling act, doing all these things, being a wonderful partner and being a mom and being an artist, a woman with a very strong, high-profile career, and then looking so fabulous. Gosh. Does it ever feel a little overwhelming?
Yeah, I definitely never look like this. I always, this is very special. Because it goes back to those buckets, the self-care bucket maybe gets, doesn't get filled as much. But the tightrope walking, I think it's around motherhood and pursuing a career, a self-directed career, and just going, okay, am I away from them too much? Am I sacrificing too much? Are they going to miss me? Or will they be proud of me? Will they be proud of the things I achieved and I did? And, with art sprinkled around the city, they're going to see that. My art will outlive me. My children will outlive me. And so it's part of my legacy. And I think that's really important. I'm a better person. I'm a better friend. I'm a better partner after I do art or when I do art. It's, I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's something so innate in who I am as a person that if I don't do it, there's something missing. Maybe I'm more miserable, or I'm definitely more miserable. But so the tightrope is balancing the thing I want to spend hours and hours and hours doing versus how much time do I spend doing all these other things?
No, doing what you love is of paramount importance, no question. So just to get a little superficial here, but after all, we're in this glorious fashion emporium. What about the role that fashion plays? And you're obviously incredibly fashionable. You might just be wearing some grungy old, paint tattered smock in your studio, but boy, you clean up well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. So this is something that I'm only just starting to explore, actually, because for the last 10 years, I've been grinding out in a studio, and, you know, the starving artist was a real thing until maybe a couple years ago. So there is so much about fashion I would love to explore and play with, and this is where I see my sort of 40s and 50s going, is how can I get, you know, older and bolder? Like, that's where I want to go. I want more, not costumes, but just pieces to accentuate ideas and creativity, and that they match my art somehow, because I think in general I'm quite, you know, let's wear all black because it matches. So this is where I want to go. This is my future.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I get into fashion, and how do I express myself that way? Because I can do it on a canvas, but
Yeah.
well,
As someone who's been in fashion trenches for a few decades, let me tell you, you know, like I'm in my 70s, and I've just, woo! Yeah, I'll be 73 in a couple of weeks. Go figure. I don't know how that happens. How time flies when you're having fun. But I just feel, you know, the older I get, the more, in some ways, the more I care about it, but the less I care about it. I mean, I realize, yes, it's important. It's the way a lot of people judge you. It's the first impression that you get. You know, it's like, okay, what you wearing? And then, you know, but I have also met many of the world's so-called most stylish people, and it wears, you know, designer duds wear pretty thin after a while, after a few minutes, actually, if the person isn't really radiating a kind of, you know, light and energy and wisdom. So it's funny how clothes can really help empower you. I think that's probably the best thing that they can do for you.
as someone who's sort of like new to this world, what would you say the biggest difference between fashion and style is? And like, how is this like a crazy open-ended question?
Well, the wonderful legendary model actress Lauren Hutton once said to me, fashion is what you're offered, style is what you choose. So it really gets down to a very personal kind of edit.
And this is a lifelong journey, right? Like you're always learning.
You're always, and hopefully too, we're always reinventing ourselves. I mean, I have nothing against a uniform. I think that's great, and if you feel comfortable in, you know, the starched white shirt and the little black leggings or whatever, you know, and you just that's your go-to outfit every day, that's fine. But I think we owe it to ourselves to push beyond our boundaries sometimes, or our comfort zones.
Yes.
Push the envelope, push the style envelope, and try different things. You know, you don't have to stick with it, but I think experimentation is key. But you know, you're just such a gorgeous, creative, imaginative soul that I don't think you're going to have any problem in that department. This has just been such a joy talking to you, and thank you for being such an incredible audience too. We're going to take some questions from the floor, and my life is an open book. You can ask me anything or ask Maggie anything. We'd be happy to take your questions. Questions out there?
I'll bring the microphone.
Hi, for Maggie, I'm just wondering what you're working on now and what's next.
That's a great question. I'm going to take a little break and work on being a more present mother and partner for a little bit, and then some self-care. And then, you know, I'm not done with these dots. I really aren't. They are really important to me. I'm going to push them a little bit further, vary in size and composition, but there's something about these images of women and the exploding backgrounds, and there's just so much feeling that there's more coming out. So yes, more of these, more, yeah.
A question for Jeanne Beker. You are a Canadian fashion icon, and we applaud you. My question is, how hard was it for you? You had these wonderful ideas, but how hard was it for you to get the males in the room to listen and break through the glass ceiling?
Hey, okay. No, listen, I love men. They're fabulous. Some of them not so much, but in some ways I succeeded because of them and in spite of them. And I certainly say that I worked for this genius for many years, Moses Neimer, who founded City TV, that legendary cable TV station that, started it all. Boy, he really knew how to push my buttons. That was tough. I mean, he was the one that said, when I was 8.5 months pregnant, just, ready to have my first baby, he came in to the makeup room one day. I was getting ready to do my show because I worked right up until the very end. And he said, "So, when are you coming back to work after you have this baby of yours?" And I mean, in these days, you can take a year off mat leave, and they have to give you the same job. They have to keep your job for you. In those days, they didn't. You could take 3 months, and they would give you a job when you came back from mat leave, but it wasn't necessarily the job that you wanted or the job that you sort of sweated for and worked so hard. And fashion television had just taken off. This was like 1987. And he said, well, because if you're not back right away, I said, well, Moses, I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about how much time I'm taking off. He goes, because, if you don't come back right away, there's a lineup of 20-something-year-old girls outside my office door just waiting for your job. And I was like, okay, Moses, I'll be back in a couple of weeks. And I was back in a couple of weeks. And then 2 years later, when I had my other daughter, it was the same thing. But I don't regret it. I really don't regret it. I don't think I would have had the success that I had if I would have taken a year mat leave off, or even 6 months, or even 2 months, because he would have replaced me with some 20-year-old, and I wasn't going to let that happen. And I think again, as I said earlier, I had to be true to myself, and I knew my job just gave me so much joy. It was just such a part of who I was, and I just had to do that. And somehow my gorgeous girls just, somehow understood it. I remember one night it was like, oh, I got to go to Paris again, and I'm so sorry. And the little one, Joey, was crying, and oh, Mommy, I wish you didn't have to go. And I honestly at that moment said, you know what, guys? I'm not going to go. If you don't want me to go, I'm not going to go. And then they both said, no, Mommy, we know you love your job. You've got such a great job. You got to go, you got to go, you got to go. So I went. But in terms of the men, do they understand all that? I mean, I'm not saying that men don't feel incredibly emotionally attached to, their kids and how, they have to, nurture them in that way and what they might have to give up. But with a mom, it always seems there's a little bit of sacrifice that goes along with the big picture. But, in the trenches of rock and roll in the music world, I mean, and that, when I started the show, The New Music, back in 1979, that was pre-MTV. People weren't putting, musicians on TV, in that way. And I was going into their hotel rooms with them and, into the bathtub with them. And, well, that happened once. But, or at least sitting on the side of them. You can watch it on YouTube. Great. Andy Summers and the Police. Anyway, it's in my book. But, I was riding on those smoky tour buses with them and really living. And, there was a lot of cynicism. Who is that chick? What is she, some kind of glorified groupie? I sort of invented that role for myself of being the host of a music show. I wasn't a great music expert in that way. But somehow, I can't say, I really, men really gave me such a hard time all the time. Yeah, there was the odd one that was a bit of a, not so nice Nick. But then there were so many that were, that were supportive and that understood that I was just, trying to do what I did the best way I knew how to do it. And I learned a lot from a lot of the great guys that I had a chance to work with over the years, from the early days in the radio newsrooms to, later days now, even the men that I have the fortune of working with now, I think are very supportive, and they're getting more so. So we just have to, you got to have a filter, and you got to know the ones that are rooting for you and the ones that aren't. But I certainly wouldn't slam all men.
As you know, most of our work here in the universe is a men's world. So for both of you, I wanted to know or set an example if there ever is any pushback on your ideas, on any of your paintings or anything in your career?
I can go first, yeah. The only pushback I get is maybe the odd troll on Instagram, which I delete. I have been so fortunate in, for example, I've mentioned a lot about my partner, but Ryan Green, where did he go? The most supportive. I can't answer this question because actually, no, the answer is no, I don't experience that. I have two wonderful people who really support me, and if I did get pushback, I think I'm not listening to you. Like I'm doing my thing. I'm pursuing this. I have something to say. I'm going to say it, and that's it. I don't get it.
And, you know, I mean, I think I just answered that question with my earlier comment, too. I mean, no, I don't think, you know, like, was there a time when, you know, like the men really drove us crazy and we didn't think they were getting it and we had to, I think, you know, this is 2025, folks. You know, I think we've come a long way, baby. And I think men are a lot more sensitive to what we need. So any guys out there in the audience, we love you. And I think that whole idea of, you know, the battle of the sexes, I think it's kind of old news.
Can I just say one thing? Yes, sometimes it's women. Sometimes it's women that go after women. And I think now that it's International Women's Day, let's work towards erasing that bit. You know, like I'm not a man, I can't control a man's thought, but I know that we could support each other, and I think that's more powerful. I think that's the bigger, better message.
Yeah, women supporting women, and the way we can lift each other up.
Because we know how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of jealousy, and you know, especially in this country, because it's limited. Like you feel like there are only a certain number of pieces of the pie to go around, and if she gets too much success, you know, then maybe I won't be able to get that much success. But still, I think that's, you know, becoming more and more an old-fashioned notion.
Yes,
and I find women are really being wonderfully supportive of each other more and more now.
Because they really understand the experience. Like, again, men look at my paintings and they go, oh, neat, dots. And women look at them and go, mm-hmm, yeah. Like, they feel it instantly.
I just want to say how inspiring it is to me. It feels like both of you have been able to hold on to who you are and the values that you carry and seen great success in doing so. I'm a fashion designer. My name's Annika Forbes, and our brand is very value-driven. We do custom outerwear for women, and it's a very personal experience. And I was just curious, particularly, Jeanne, your perspective on, do you feel like it's possible, having met all of these amazing, famous fashion designers, to do things differently? Or is there a path in fashion that you sort of have to follow in order to make it big?
You know, I think the key to success for any fashion brand or any fashion designer is to just have a very strong point of view. That, you know, and stick to that. I mean, you've got to be saying something unique that no one else is saying, you know, and certainly not saying in the same way that you're trying to say it. Fashion has changed, you know, and I hope you didn't grow up watching fashion television wanting to be a designer because of that. Oi, I feel like, oh, we created some monsters. No, I know, you know, it was a very glamorous world that we, you know, sort of opened that window on, and I think a lot of people wanted to jump into the fashion industry because it just looked so fabulous. And yeah, okay, but it was a very different time, too. Like, things have changed dramatically. I mean, big business has sucked a lot of the artistry out of fashion, sadly. There's a lot that we're seeing that is the same. There's a lot that's going on now in the name of sustainability, though, that is very positive and very interesting, and hoping that, you know, but, you know, like, how many labels does this world need? I mean, listen, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I had my own clothing lines for a while there until I realized, like, really? Like, do we really need another another dress in the world. And there's so much going on, and this whole idea of circular fashion is great to see, people buying, designer clothes that have been gently used and just keeping the stuff out there, because these things, quality garments aren't built for obsolescence. They have a lasting power. But there is also something joyful about the newness. I certainly don't want to bite the hand that feeds me. I sell a lot of clothes, at the shopping channel every week, and we love going shopping, and we love buying stuff, and we love just the thrill of it all. But for someone who is a designer in this day and age, you just better get yourself a good business-minded person to partner with. Because I don't think, you could probably say that for anything, even in the arts. You need someone that's directing you in that way, so you can just go off and be wildly creative without having to worry too much about the nuts and bolts of keeping the business above water. Yep. Anyway.
Maybe one last question, and then we'll wrap up, unfortunately.
Thanks, Jeanne and Maggie, thank you. We just really enjoyed the conversation. Jeanne, so many questions, but I'm going to take a little different twist on this. So breaking in as you did with fashion television and the backstage interviews, and as a Canadian, so you commented on this market and the smallness of it, maybe that competitiveness. What do you think was the superpower you had as a Canadian, breaking into what you did and creating something totally unique?
I think I was nice. I mean, that's the one thing I can say about Canada. I do believe that we can see the forest for the trees. I don't think that we get so caught up in the hype. I think that I was in that world, but I wasn't of that world. And I think that made all the difference, that I think, people felt that. So, okay.
Thank you so much. That, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that was an incredible almost 45 minutes. Jeanne, Maggie, a deeply heartfelt thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jared.
I can't think of a better way to kick off and to celebrate International Women's Day than with these two iconic powerhouse ladies. So a deep thank you. For all of you that have joined us, the good news is Jeanne and Maggie will be with us until around noon, so we still have some time. For all of you here, please come into this gallery that we've set up at Holt Renfrew and look at Maggie's incredible work. Also, something about Jeanne that you may or may not know, next year is a special year with the Glenbow. And we have in this incredible city the great privilege of celebrating Jeanne's legacy through the exhibition that will take place next year at the Glenbow Museum.
And that is being curated by the brilliant Paul Hardy.
Yes.
And it's going to be great. But talk about a fantasy. Woo!
So with that, let us continue to celebrate International Women's Day. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Ryan and Masters Gallery. It's been an incredible event. Couldn't have done it without you, obviously. And the party continues in store. Please stay with us and check out all the beautiful spring fashion. We have Dior behind these curtains with us and a pop-up trunk show and a lot happening on the first floor today in beauty. Lots of great animations happening there as well. So thank you so much. Happy International Women's Day.